Hello, hey everyone. Welcome to another English lesson. Today, it's we're going to be talking about adverbs. So this is a grammar lesson, and we're going to be doing a quiz that I think is good for, well, I think intermediate to advanced learners. I have some questions for you that some of them are a little easier, others might be a little more difficult. But there are also some useful phrases that I want to talk about that are adverbs or that contain an adverb. So I hope that this lesson has a little bit of something for everyone, whether you're a beginner, intermediate, advanced. I just want to introduce myself. My name is Wes. The channel Interactive English. It's all about trying to help you guys improve your English skills. So if that's what you want to do, please subscribe, turn on notifications. Also, write to me in the comments. Tell me your name, where you're from. I always love hearing from everyone, especially new people. And as I mentioned, today's lesson, it's going to be a bit of an adverb quiz. All of these questions are related to adverbs. So I think you guys, as you go through this, I think you'll see what I mean because I have different questions for you that are related to adverbs. Before we start and talking about adverbs, I just want to say a quick hello to some of you members, you patrons, some of those Speak Up students. Great to see you, Lolly, Gertrudis, Takayo, hello. I think when it comes to adverbs, the first thing that I want to say, well, let me just give you the definition, the meaning of an adverb, because I think that is something that we should know. And this meaning I took right out of Wikipedia because I think they really cover everything and talk about everything when referring to adverbs. So this is right from Wikipedia. It says an adverb is a word or an expression that modifies a verb, an adjective, another adverb, determiner, clause, preposition, or sentence. So adverbs can modify a variety of different verbs. This is the next part that I think is important. Adverbs typically express like manner, place, time, frequency, degree, level of certainty. There are many different categories that you could put adverbs into, and they also answer questions like how, or in what way, or when, or where, to what extent. So the last part of this is when I think about teaching adverbs. If you learn adverbs in the classroom, say you have a teacher, I think sometimes they'll present adverbs by categories and say, well, we're going to learn adverbs of manner and talk specifically about those adverbs. And then we're going to look at some adverbs of frequency and kind of teach you those. I think it makes it easier for learners to kind of, understand, what the adverb is, what it means, why it's an adverb, how it's used, when you break it down into those categories like manner, place, time. Or teachers may present it to learners like, let's talk about adverbs that answer the question of how. Or let's talk about adverbs that answer the question of when. It's very similar, but I think that's the best way to learn adverbs. And as we go through our little quiz, I'm going to challenge you guys. I'm going to break it down into those categories like manner, frequency, and go through it that way. And hopefully that makes it a little easier for you to grasp what I'm talking about. So I hope that you guys are ready. I hope that you're feeling smart today. Just want to say hello, Anna, Fidel, Maria, Esther, Mohammed, Eloisa. Welcome. Let's begin with, we're going to start with some adverbs of frequency. And I think hopefully this is a little easier. You're familiar with many of these adverbs. And all I want you to do, and there's more than one, I've given you this with some blanks. So you see those percentages there. So we're talking about frequency. Which word would you use to talk about something that is 100% of the time? And then which word would you use for 75% of the time? And then 50% of the time, 25%, and then 0. Saying that, okay, this, I don't want to give the adverb, the word away, but that is how frequent this is, 0%. So these, I think, when you're learning adverbs of frequency, this is pretty common. I think you learn this very early on, what these words are, because often I think in conversation, we talk about how frequently something may happen. And that's when you're going to use some of these. So what do you think? Again, you guys can participate. Write your answers in the chat, in the comments. The first one, 100%, of course, excellent. We're talking about always, something that you always do. I always brush my teeth before I go to bed. Again, very common word. I'm sure everybody's familiar with it. If we're talking about 75% of the time, and sometimes there are more than one answer for these. But 75%, I think most of the time, people are going to use usually. Usually. You could also use the word often. I think that's the same. It kind of refers to about 75% of the time. I tend to favor, I think I always just say usually more than often, but that's just me. Excellent. I saw some great answers in there. Yes. And 50% of the time, sometimes, if you're talking about something happens like, it sometimes rains in spring. It's something that happens maybe 50% of the time. Sometimes. I think another word, I'm going to actually come back to a couple of phrases when it comes to sometimes. So we will come back to that in just a moment. 25% of the time, rarely. I think this one is commonly used. I would even say rarely. I think you could go less than 25%. I was kind of just trying to keep it in order. Rarely, I think, could even go like as low as like 10%. It's something that does not happen often. I just used that one. But rarely could be 25%. There are some other ones you could use, like hardly ever, that's a very low percent too. Seldom is another word that you could use for that one. And then I think 0% at the end. Many of you had written that in there. Never. Yes. So if you say, I never do something, then you really 0%, that this is something that has never happened. So these are very useful words that I think you learn these early on because we use them a lot. I think you will always use these words in conversation, talking about how frequently you do something. Now let's move into some other things that I think are kind of, similar, different ways you could say this. So here is an expression. If I say, we like to eat sushi, and it equals, it's the same as sometimes. So I'm talking about like 50%. What is an expression that I can use that means the same as sometimes? So I'm talking about an expression, it's more than one word. So this is you could say expression or a phrase. It means the same as sometimes. And I would say, we like to eat sushi. What do you think? Let me know in the chat, in the comments, if you're watching this later. I always love it if you guys participate in these lessons. I think that's what it's all about. That's what interactive English is all about. Now, there are more than one there's more than one answer. And that's why, again, I think for some of these, it's giving you guys a chance to think of some different ones, because maybe you're going to think of one that I didn't put down. But what I was going for was this one. Every now and then. So every now and then means kind of the same as sometimes. I've also put another one down there. From time to time is another phrase, expression that you could use. I saw somebody, Takaya, you put once in a while. Once in a while, that's another one that you could say, like, I like to eat sushi once in a while. I told you there's more than one answer. Vicky, Gustav, yes, half the time. If you want to say, oh, I like to eat sushi about half the time, like that's something that you would do. 50% means sometimes. So again, there's more than one answer for this. These are just a couple of phrases that I think you will hear. People talk about how often, how frequently something happens. They may use every now and then, from time to time. Somebody put occasionally. Yes, there are many different adverbs of frequency. This next one is an idiom, and I've given you a hint down here. So, and this is kind of true, especially we live in Hungary. It's a landlocked country. We eat seafood. What would what would I complete that with? It's the same as rarely. Actually, I would even go like lower than that and say it's probably closer to like hardly ever. Probably maybe about 10% if I want to give you a percentage. So I tried to give you a little bit of a hint to tell you what this idiom is. I don't want to give it away, but this is an idiom in English, which is talking about, well, how often something happens, like an adverb of frequency. So instead of using rarely, could use this idiom. Excellent. I saw some of you have it. Perfect. The answer is once in a blue moon. I put 2 moons down there with a calendar because that is a blue moon. A blue moon is when you have 2 full moons in the same month. They call that a blue moon, and it is something that happens rarely. It does not happen that often, which is where this came from, this expression that, oh, you do something once in a blue moon, you do it rarely. You don't often do it. So those are some adverbs of frequency, and that's what I mean when I talk about like how often something happens. And teachers may present it and say, all right, let's learn some adverbs of frequency. But now I want to switch to kind of another group and talk about some adverbs. We're going to switch to another group. We're going to switch to adverbs of degree and talk about some of those. So the first question that I have for you, thinking about like a degree, like to the extent of something. This is a question, and I'm going to kind of come back to this and explain a little bit more of it once I give you the answer. This is a question that somebody would ask kind of like jokingly, trying to be humorous if it's like very hot outside and you're talking to somebody else and you know that that person feels like, wow, it is hot. You know this person thinks it's very hot outside. You could ask this question jokingly, is it hot for you? Is it hot for you? All right, what adverb would go in there? And it's an adverb of degree, okay? And I'm going to give you, I'll talk a little bit more about this question in general. So, excellent. Takayo, Anna, Gayatri, perfect. The answer is enough. That is the adverb that I'm looking for. It's an adverb of degree. Is it hot enough for you? And I say that this is asked humorously because, and I've underlined hot. So in that context, if somebody is really hot and you're talking to them, you could ask them jokingly, yeah, is it hot enough for you? You could also replace hot with many other words, depending on the situation, and ask the same question, kind of joking. So for example, say that you are eating like really spicy food, and you know that your friend or somebody else, they're starting to sweat. They think it's really spicy. You could then say, wow, is it spicy enough for you? Or maybe you're trying to move something and it's very heavy and you're lifting it, and maybe your friend is having a difficult time. They think it's very heavy. You could say, yeah, is it heavy enough for you? So this is a question that you could ask jokingly, and you could, depending on the situation and the context, you can change hot and use a variety of words instead. I chose hot because I think this is one that I think is it's commonly used. It's summertime for many of you who are in the Northern Hemisphere right now, so it's very hot. This is a question that you could ask if on a very hot day, and you say that jokingly, yeah, is it hot enough for you? So that's a good phrase to know as well. This is more like vocabulary. So now I've given you the adverb. These are all adverbs talking about like a degree. And I want you to think of which word may follow that. There's no wrong answer because there are different words that might often follow these adverbs. And I just want you to think of some right now. This is a great way for, to build your vocabulary. Collocations are when you have two words that are frequently used together. So if you were to think of the adverb like fully, what's the next word that just comes to mind? All right. And there's more than one answer. What would you use? Fully. What is a phrase that you would think of? Or deeply, or utterly. All right. I feel like utterly, there's quite a few words that you could follow with that. Again, there's no wrong answer. I'm going to show you some of my suggestions or what I thought of when I thought of this. But again, this is a different way to kind of, present this. For me to present this to you as kind of like a quiz, not really a quiz question, but really trying to get you to think of different words. So I have some answers. Somebody, fully understand. Yes, excellent. Fully aware. Fully conscious. That's a good one. I like it. Fully grown. Excellent. Perfect. I told you guys there are many different phrases. I hope you guys read the chat, see what each other's saying. Again, learning collocations is a great way to build your vocabulary. So the ones that I chose, and again, there's no right or wrong answer. Fully aware. Yes, you are fully aware of something, that you know that something is happening. But as Lale mentioned, fully conscious. That's a good one. You talk about somebody who's fully grown. Deeply sorry about something. I think deeply, Anna mentioned deeply regret. That's awesome. That's another one. I think when you're talking about something that maybe is maybe a situation like sorry or regret, deeply is one that you would use. You're deeply sorry about something, or you deeply regret something. Be deeply disappointed. Excellent. I thought there's many. And then utterly, I think this one, because utterly kind of means the same as extremely, there are many different words that you could use. Utterly insane is just the first one that came to my mind. But you could say something is utterly ridiculous, I think, is another common collocation. I see some other great collocations that you guys are writing in the chat. That's what I wanted for all of you to share. It's a good way to build your vocabulary because you see what other people are saying. Excellent. Just to point out a few other ones. Lolly mentioned you're deeply involved. That's another collocation to really, again, express that degree. Maggie mentioned you fully understand something. Perfect. Pamela mentioned fully vaccinated. That is another common, I think, especially collocation you would hear nowadays talking about people getting vaccines, and you may hear whether or not somebody is fully vaccinated. Vicky, utterly annoyed. That's another great collocation. Absolutely. Remy, utterly confused. Perfect. So you guys get the idea. This is just a good way to build your vocabulary, learn some of these different collocations, and these are adverbs of degree that you can do that. So let's switch gears once again. And now, so we talked about some adverbs of frequency, some adverbs of degree. Now I want to look at some adverbs of manner. And the first question, I think I think you guys will know it. I think it's not too difficult. Is this one. It's just to fill in the blank. I think you speak English very. What word would you use? Which adverb would you use to complete that sentence? We're talking about manner, an adverb of manner, which really describes how is kind of the question that somebody would ask. So adverb of manner, which word would you use to complete that sentence? Again, there are many words that you could actually use depending on what somebody's trying to say. I see that now. What I was going for is well. I think you speak English very well. The one thing that I want to point out with this is because I think often people will talk about, well, how well somebody does something, and they use good instead. So good is, I would say, it's more informal. That's probably informal English. It's common, I think, in spoken English to say, wow, you do this, you're good. You do this really good. And I think people who are very strict with like the trying to be like, oh, no, you should use well. I'm just trying to point this out. I think well is, well, you could say, again, good. Good is just a word that's commonly used informally, which means the same thing as an adverb. But again, some people said fluently, slowly, clearly. I told you there are many adverbs of manner that you could use to complete this. I think you guys are already catching on when I said like these adverbs of manner, I think they often end with that ly. So right now, says I think you use very badly, I guess. I think instead of badly, I'd say probably poorly. Might be a little more common, but yeah, that's Angela awfully. Okay. I want you to do a sentence transformation. So sentence transformation is when you're saying the same thing, but you're just using another sentence. So right here, I give you the original sentence. I want you to be careful when you take the test. What I want you to do, change one of those words to an adverb of manner and just rewrite the sentence. What would you say? You're transforming the sentence. You're saying the same thing, but you're just saying it in a different way. That is basically, in short, what a sentence transformation is. So take one of those words, change it into an adverb, and then how would you write that sentence? What would you guys say? I want you to be careful when you take the test. All right, so the word that you would choose, careful, you're changing it into an adverb of manner. I told you those adverbs of manners, those are typically those ly adverbs. So in this case, we're changing it to carefully. And in that case, you would say, I want you to take the test carefully. Or you could say, Swati said, I want you to take the test very carefully. Sure, you can add very in there if you want. But we're saying it's the same thing. It has the same meaning, except we've just transformed this sentence using that adverb of degree. And as I mentioned, when you're talking about, adverb of manner, sorry, I misspoke. If we're talking about those adverbs of manner, it's often those ly adverbs. Not all of them end in an ly, but many of them do. Slowly, quickly, differently, carefully, happily. Those are adverbs of manner. Now, I want to kind of combine degree and manner with this. This is a question. And the reason why I'm giving you this question, it's kind of a play on words. And I will explain that when I give you the answer. This is something that, as a teacher, I would say this to students sometimes, kind of just joking around, being funny. I told you it's a play on words. Are you working or working? So notice, what do you guys think? Try and fill that out. Again, it's a phrase it's a question that I think is probably fairly well known. It's not a secret, but I think it's a good example if you're talking about a play on words and it uses those adverbs. All right. Yes. Anna got it. Perfect. Excellent. Hard and hardly. So are you working hard or hardly working? And it's a play on words because we're using that adverb. You have hard as an adverb and then hardly as an adverb. And the reason why it's funny, it's a play on words because working hard and hardly working are opposites. If somebody is working hard, in that case, we're talking about that adverb of degree, like you're working with a lot of intensity and you're really you're putting in a lot of effort, and you'd say you're working hard. Hardly, as an adverb of manner, means kind of like, slightly, very little. And you're talking about, or like not much. Hardly working is just, you're working very little. So that's why I said it's kind of a play on words. Working hard, hardly working, they're opposites. And this is a good example of that using these adverbs. Are you working hard or hardly working? Good phrase, fun question to ask somebody. All right, so let's look at some adverbs of time now. All right. So we talked about adverbs of frequency, some manner, some degree. These are all some adverbs of time, which again, I think many of these are very, very common adverbs. And this is one that I don't think it's too difficult. The reason why I'm putting this up there, maybe it's challenging because I do often hear people make mistakes when it comes to using this adverb of time. The package arrived, and then what? How would you complete that sentence? Which adverb, which time adverb would you use? And I've given you the calendar down there to kind of really put it in context. I know that calendar, it does not have 7 days. That's okay. Just pretend like it's a 4-day week. So you see that the blue, that's when the package, that's today. And then you can count backwards the days when the package arrived. So some of you guys are writing, yes, the package would arrive in time. Yes, that's true. The package would arrive early. Sure, that's fine. But what would you say if you wanted to be exactly specific and tell somebody that the package arrived, and you wanted to specifically say, this is when it arrived. This is what you would say. And again, I think you guys will be like, oh, yes, of course. The answer I was looking for, you could say yes earlier, not yesterday. Again, because count backwards. All right. It's not yesterday, not 2 days ago, but 3 days ago is what I was looking for. And the reason why I chose like 3 days ago, this is sometimes I hear learners make mistakes and they'll say things like 2 days before or 3 days before or like 5 days before instead of using like 5 days ago or 1 week ago or 3 years ago. So it's a good phrase to know if you're talking about that time and you want to say, well, yeah, something, it didn't happen yesterday, it happened 2 days ago or 3 days ago or 4 days ago. So in that case, that's what I meant, like try to be a little more specific, even though that is not a calendar with a full week on it. This is an idiom, and I want you to complete it. Now, I arrived. That is an adverb clause. And that's when I said, like, that's your adverb right there, that whole thing. I arrived. Everyone had already eaten. So that first phrase, that first part of that adverb clause, a clause, it's a group of words. It has a subject and a verb. In this case, I arrived. That's your subject and verb. It is a clause. It is a dependent clause because it can't be its own sentence. But the phrase before it is it's an idiom. And I want you to think of what it is. So I'm saying phrase. So remember, phrase has more than one word. So I know some of you are like you could say when, but I'm not looking for one word. When is not really an idiom. Which phrase am I? And you guys might not even think of it as an idiom. I, even before, didn't really think of it much as an idiom until I was kind of putting this together and looked it up. Excellent. Yes, Maria. The phrase that I'm looking for, the idiom, by the time. By the time I arrived, everyone had already eaten. So by the time is an idiom. That phrase, it refers to something that had already happened at that point in time. So at this point in time, something had already happened before. So by the time I arrived, everyone had already eaten. By the time I arrived, that is your adverb clause. So again, we're talking about adverbs. That is your adverb clause. You could, again, just use the word if you wanted to say when. Some of you said, when I arrived, everyone had already eaten. That also makes sense. That's perfect. But I kind of wanted to talk about that idiom. It's a great phrase. By the time I arrived, everyone had already eaten. If you're pointing out that context, like at this point in time, something else happened before. So these were, again, touching on different type of adverbs. This was the quiz. Thank you guys for participating. I told you that it was going to be a little bit of a mix of different groups of adverbs. We talked about adverbs of frequency, degree, manner, time. There are other groups that I didn't get to. I kind of wanted just to go over a few, and hopefully you guys learn something new, because we talked about some different expressions as well. It was great seeing so many patrons, so many members, and yes, just to let you guys know, if you want to support, sponsor us, if you enjoy what we do, check out the links. You can become a YouTube member, a patron. Helps make all of this possible. So that's wrapping it up. That's it for our adverb quiz. Again, I think these are very useful words to know. So this was kind of a little bit of grammar, but I think also some vocabulary as well. We talked about collocations. There are many different adverb, verb collocations, adverb noun collocations. So hopefully you guys, that's my hope for every lesson, that you learn at least one thing new. So thank you, Adair, Anna, Lolly, Be Happy, Rosalinda, Gayathi, Eduardo, Gertrudis. Thank you guys. Lolly, Gertrudis, great to see you all again. Angela, Takayao. I hope that you all enjoy the rest of your weekend. And of course, I will be back next time for another live lesson. Oh yeah, if you enjoy these live lessons, if you enjoy like kind of these interactive quizzes that we do, please hit that like button. It helps the algorithm gods, I guess, kind of help spread the word about interactive English. So yes, be sure, hit that like button before heading out. I would really appreciate it. So thank you. Just give a couple more shout outs. Hun, Maria, Takayo, great to see you. Remy, Shedden, Pamela. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I will see you next time. Juliana, hello. All right. I gotta head out.